Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to the TCEC season 24 superfinal between the two top engines Stockfish 15 and LC0. So this becomes really one of the most epic chess events because the result after 40 rounds is actually +1 for LC0. This is really crazy because in the previous TCEC seasons it was always a pure domination by Stockfish, but in this super final really it was an epic roller coaster. First LC0 took the lead, then Stockfish equalized the results. Stockfish took the lead, and in one particular moment of the super event Stockfish had even 2 points more than LC0, but then Lila equalized the result and took now the lead. In one moment also Lila had 2 points more than Stockfish 15, but now after 40 rounds the result is 20.5 points for Lila and 19.5 points here for Stockfish 15. So this becomes really, in my opinion, one of the most epic, most brutal TCEC competitions ever. So let's start now to analyze one game. In my opinion, this was an epic, really immortal, a beautiful, sharp tactical game, simply sick pervert idea that was introduced to us here by Stockfish 15 in the Scandinavian defense. A move you see now that has never been played in chess history. No one dared to play this move. Actually, it's quite tempting to play the move, but no grandmaster, no player in chess history dared to play the move, but Stockfish played it. It caused, I think, really one of the most epic, one of the most beautiful games in TCEC history. So let's see now what's all about. Let's see now the brutal tactic that Stockfish prepared in the opening stage. So after move e4 that Stockfish played, we have now the move d5 by LC0. This was the pre-arranged opening, the Scandinavian defense. E takes d5, queen to d5, knight to c3. It's now the main line with the move d4. White has, of course, an expansion in the center of the board. We have knight to f6, knight to f3, c6, bishop to c4. In some lines, knight to e5, bishop to f7 are some tactics that are possible. But now, after this move, bishop to g4, the last move pre-arranged by the organizer, was now the move h3. And in the game in which Lila played the reverse game with the white pieces, Stockfish played bishop to f3 and Lila took simply with queen to f3. Black should probably continue now the game with e6, knight from b to d7, maybe bishop to d6, bishop to b4 are optimal lines for black. So although white should be better here, but maybe black can hold this position, although black has lost, of course, the bishop pair. But now already the crazy thing happened in this particular match. LC0 played the aggressive queen to h5, not allowing, of course, h takes g4 because the rook is hanging. But you can guess what Stockfish is doing now. Many of us, I think, would play bishop to e2 and similar stuff, maybe even bishop to e3, but Stockfish played the impossible move, h takes g4, a move that has never been played in chess history. You can be also maybe an explorer of this position. I couldn't find any games in the database that has been played like this. No grandmaster, no international master, no FIDE master, or maybe a low-rated player has played this line. A really sick, brutal, perfect line in the Scandinavian defense. Look what happens after move queen to h1 that LC0 played. Stockfish covers now with the move bishop to f1, and actually the queen is a little bit endangered. The problem, I think, here for black in this position is not that white can actually trap the queen. White cannot trap the queen, but the issue is that black has problems to get the queen out. That's the issue. The queen is a little bit stuck here on the h file. That's the main problem. So as I said, in any of these lines, white will not lock the queen. White will not trap the queen. White will not gain extra material. But the attack that white gets here is, I think, a beautiful compensation for the lost exchange, for the lost rook against the bishop in the beginning of this tactical sequence. So look how brutal, really, this and deep this idea here is by Stockfish 15. After bishop to f1, what you can do. Here, knight to g4 is, of course, one of the possibilities. This wasn't played in the game because this is also not so good, because look at this, what happens. Knight to e4, you can maybe try this line, knight to h2, trying maybe to simplify the game by trading off more pieces. But look at this, even if you play something like knight to g3, look at knight to f3 comes with a check, queen to f3, you have maybe this square for the queen, but now the knight comes again on e4, and again you have several problems where to go with the queen. After move e6, which seems natural, you maybe are trying to get the queen on d8, again on the starting square, maybe even on e7, but at least you escaped with the queen. This is not working because of this beautiful move, knight to g5. And look at this, there is simply no good move anymore for black black has issues how to defend this f7 pawn. Even if you play something like f6, then of course knight to e6 is going to happen. You can play maybe knight to d7, but look at this, g3, queen to h2, and now we can even play bishop to e3, knight to c7 are opportunities. So the game is over. Here for black. So see, I'm doing these lines a little bit deeper because I think in the beginning you can really use in many of these lines this tactical shot. Maybe you can surprise your opponent in the Scandinavian defense with the white pieces. So as I said, after h6 g4, queen to h1, bishop to f1. As we said, if you play knight to g4, knight to e4, and now after knight to h2, of course your opponent could also try maybe queen to h5, but this is again not working because look at this, knight to e5 actually traps also here the knight. If you try here the move f5, then look at this, knight to g5 is going to happen. So in my opinion, again, a messed up game here for black. So I think this is a beautiful opening trap in the Scandinavian defense for white. Look what happens after h6 g4. So you see queen to h1, bishop to f1. Lila didn't dare to play the move knight to g4. Lila played the more natural e6, and you see now the queen is stuck here. White didn't get challenged with the move knight to g4. Black never took the pawn, and of course Stockfish uses now this moment, plays now the move g5, and has now really a beautiful game. I think the evaluation here that my Stockfish engine showed at home is about 0.7 in white's favor. So I think it's a decent advantage in the opening stage. When you watch now maybe some other positions, if you have studied maybe the Ruy Lopez, Queen's Gambit declined, or maybe some other positions, then you know that the evaluation is always about 0.3 for white. Probably it's not a huge advantage like this, but when it comes to computer evaluations of this position, the engine really loves now already white's position. This is really stunning. It's, I think, a deep idea, because after move knight to d7 that LCZero had to play. Now look at this, white is dancing with the pieces, the queen is still stuck here. As I said, the point is that probably the queen will not be taken, but the queen is simply out of game. That's the main issue. Queen to h5, Lila tries to get the queen back into the game. Bishop to f4, h6, trying to create some spaces at least again for the queen. Queen to g6, maybe queen to h7. In some lines is an opportunity. Queen to d2, Stockfish ignores any possible trades of pawns, any trades of pieces, simply goes now for queenside castling. Knight to a6, again Stockfish doesn't want to play bishop to a6 after b takes a6, maybe in some lines c5, rook to c8 are opportunities, maybe even somehow to create some attacks on the b file, although so far the bishop is controlling the bx square. But Stockfish simply played normal ideas, played now queenside castling, and allowed basically LCZero to trade off the pawns after move knight to g5, knight to b4, and here LCZero is hoping to get the knight on a beautiful square d5, where it's centralized and it attacks, of course, many squares. But Stockfish continues with normal development. Bishop to e2, hitting the queen has to step back on g6, and now knight to d6. And you have to, of course, react here, because you get many tactical threats, especially around the square f7, also around the square b7. So that's why bishop to d6, bishop to d6, knight to d5, bishop to d3, here played by Stockfish, again hitting the queen. And now after move queen to f6, now comes again a beautiful move c4. The knight has to step back, and now a brilliant move here by Stockfish 15. This is really a stunner. Bishop to e5 seems maybe like a strange idea, because of course knight to e5 and d takes e5 and queen to e5 leads maybe into a favorable game for black. But this was now the dirty preparation here by the fish. Look at this, what happens. For instance, you played knight to e5 after d takes e5 and queen to e5. Look at this stunner, bishop to g6. This would be such a pervert move. This wasn't again played in the game, but this is so beautiful, this particular checkmate threat. For instance, you pick up, let's see this, you pick up the bishop with the knight, then of course queen to d7, king to f8, and queen to f7 leads into a beautiful checkmate. If you play something else, if you play f takes g6, then again we have a beautiful check, because the knight is controlling the f7 square. You can step back, but now we sacrifice the queen, rook to d8, and now rook to d8 leads also into a beautiful checkmate pattern. This is really amazing. So you see, after move knight to e5, d takes e5, queen to e5, after bishop to g6, there's simply not so so much that can be done. You are forced basically, I think here, to give up the queen for the knight, and now after queen to g5, this will be of course an optimal continuation now for white again. So after move bishop to e5, maybe what you could do is here knight to e5, d takes e5, and then to step back with the queen on h6. Maybe this was the way to go, because of course now bishop to g6 is not working, because black can of course castle out of the attack. But now with bishop to e4, this would be a beautiful continuation again for white, because if black finally castles, then look at this with the g3, rook to h1 is a huge problem. Look at this, we are targeting the h file, especially the h7 square, with the support of the bishop, with the support of the knight. In my opinion, this is a messed up game. For instance, you play f6, bishop to h7, you have to play king to h6, and now e takes f6 is devastating. I think you already here for black. So look at this. So after move bishop to e5, this was another stunner here by Stockfish. Lila-0 retreated to h6. Now bishop to f4, again queen to h5, bishop to e2, again the queen gets endangered, and now g4. Brilliant move by the fish, not allowing this knight to escape on a beautiful square on the square f5. So in the game b5, so Lila is hoping to somehow open the position, somehow to spice up the game, especially on the c file with the support of the queen. There are even some nasty ideas, of course, with the move b5, but Stockfish is saying, okay, show me what you got. Bishop to d3, again the queen has to step back. Look at this, the queen was endangered through the whole game. That was the beautiful part about this opening trap by Stockfish 15. Queen to d4, but now queen to e2 leads into complications. Look at this, many pieces are lined up now on the d file. In the game, queen to b6, getting out of this mess. But now with queen to f3, there are some threats, of course, with knight to d6, and then of course queen to f7, for instance, is also a huge problem. So that's why f6 was played by Lila-0, but now queen to e2. Now the e6 is a problem, although in many lines is knight to d6 is also perfectly fine, but basically the position is so bad already for black that you can play now many opportunities here. So Stockfish played for the more natural line, simply targeting the e6 square. We have now queenside castling by Lila-0, but it's simply not working. Now the knight comes on a beautiful square, knight to d6. We have king to b8, knight to f5. Discovered attack against the king. You have to step back, and now this knight is taken. So Stockfish gained now 2 minor pieces for the rook, and in my opinion, with this beautiful bishop pair, it's a great continuation here for white. So in the game, knight to c5, attacking the bishop, bishop to c2, rook to d1, bishop to d1. Now the queen is coming into the game, and Stockfish plays now knight to c6. We have knight to d3. This is a brilliant move because it's a counter attack. You're attacking also here the king, you're attacking also the bishop on f4, but this was actually just a beautiful tactical sequence that Stockfish can handle here. Stockfish has, of course, calculated his position in a good way. Stockfish plays now first king to c2, knight to f4, comes of course with an attack against the queen, but now comes the brilliant stuff. We have queen to e4. If you play something like, for instance, knight to h3, then of course we have here knight to d8, and the queen is hanging. We will simply also deliver checkmate. So there's simply no time to do anything here. Even if you play something like queen to b6, then queen to f4 leads into complications. You cannot pick up the knight because you get bishop to f3, and again, this is game over for black. So you see the whole tactical sequence, it seems so that Lila is defending it, but actually Stockfish is still taking over. So after move queen to e4, the only way to survive this attack is queen to d3, queen to d3, knight to d3. Now after king to d3, we have reached now an endgame in which Stockfish has still the situation, 2 minor pieces versus the rook. The pawn material is equal, but we have to say it, in these types of positions, the knight and bishop should be much better, because especially of the fact that white can always create a passer here. White will eventually create a passer on the queen side and will support the passer with the knight and with the bishop. On the other hand, what the good part also here for Stockfish is that the king is close enough to the action. The king is already centralized, so the king is much better than black king. So many elements that I think are simply favorable here for white. So in the game, b takes c4, king to c3. First of all, Stockfish didn't want to line up many pieces on the c file, simply got with the king out and is threatening now bishop to f3. This pawn on c4 will be taken eventually, so it doesn't matter. So in the game, king to b7 was played by Leela, knight to a5, now knight to c4, bishop to rook to h1, attacking the bishop, king to d2, and now f5. And this is the way to go. Here, Leela is also trying to get a passer here on the king side. We have now bishop to e2, rook to g1, now knight to e3. We have g6, a4, king to d6, a5. The idea is clear, as we said. We're trying to create at least one passer here with the support of the two minor pieces. Then the game should be over. So rook to b1, king to c3. Again, another check. King to d3. Now the rook comes again behind on h1, and now b4. We have rook to b1, king to c3. So you see the king is close enough to the action. The king is controlling everything. Rook to e1, bishop to d3, rook to c1, king to d2, and now rook to h1. We have now f3, and now king to e5. Now bishop to e2, and this move is a nice idea because we're trying also maybe to lock here the rook on the first rank, so the rook could never get behind the pawns anymore. So in the game, king to d4, that's why I played by Leela c0. The king is now coming into the action here. Very nice move also by Leela. But now knight to c2, attacking the king. The king doesn't have access to the c4 square. King to d5, king to c3. Now the rook comes on h7. Bishop to c4 comes with a check. King to d6, and now g takes f5. We have e takes f5, and now b5. And you see now this is the position that we want to get. We're trying, of course, now to play even some ideas of b6, then maybe even a6, maybe even sacrificing just one pawn just to let this pawn roll here on the a file. So in the game, rook to h1, we have now knight to d4, king to c5, knight to e6 comes with a check. Again, black has to step back. f4, and this is now a beautiful setup here by Stockfish 15. Look at this. Everything is glued together. Everything is compact. Everything is protecting each other here because here the king is protecting the bishop is protecting the knight is protecting the pawn, and it's now a powerful setup. And we are controlling also the square g5. We're not allowing this progress here on the king side. So rook to b1, we have now bishop to b3. For instance, many of us would try maybe even some ideas of rook to c1. It seems tempting maybe after king to b4 to play this kind of an idea. Rook to b3, king to b3, maybe king to e6. But the problem is now this pawn on the a file is simply too far away. It's now this distant pass pawn will simply pass through, and now the pawn is rolling and will be promoted to queen, and it's game over again for black. So you see this idea maybe to attack the king, pick up the bishop that is defending the knight is not working because of this possibilities on the queen side here by the pawn. So rook to b1, bishop to b3. Again, as we said, this idea is not working. It's the same tactical shot. Rook to e1. We have now a6 with the preparation to, of course, play b6 and then maybe let the pawn roll again on a7. Rook to h1, king to b4, rook to a1, knight to d4, the knight is coming into the game. King to c5, rook to c1, bishop to c4, and now again a beautiful check by the knight, and now the king gets cornered, and this is already messed up game because in some lines we can even if we're playing the game correctly, even deliver a checkmate here because the king is cornered. The king doesn't have so many squares anymore, so it's simply now a one-way ticket, of course, in white's favor. So knight to a5, we have king to b8, b6, getting the king closer. Now king to b6, we have rook to d1, a7, and now after king to a8, of course, the serious now threat is to play bishop to d5, which of course is a checkmate. The rook is controlling so far the squares, but there are many squares that can do the same. If we get, for instance, the bishop on c6, the same checkmate pattern will happen. So bishop to b5, rook to b1. Now the knight is coming into the game on c4, g5. We have now attack against the rook. Rook to b3. We have here a beautiful move by Leela c0, pardon me, Stockfish f takes g5. If you pick up the knight, then you get here again a beautiful checkmate. So in the game, rook to c3, we have now bishop to c4, rook to c4, and after knight to c4, in this position, LCZero resigned. The problem is now, if you push the pawn on f4 here, we simply played this one, and after next move, we have this also beautiful checkmate pattern with the move knight to b6, a beautiful checkmate by the knight and the pawn and the king. So, incredible game by Stockfish. Let's go just a little bit to the beginning again, because after h takes g4, this was a huge surprise moment already. For instance, in chess history, bishop to e2 has been played many times. Let me see how many times it has been played. 14 games, bishop to e2, bishop to e3 once, and there are many games. Let me see in these lines. Okay, these are the two basic lines. So never in chess history h takes g4 has been played. No one dared to play this game. Really an amazing tactical shot here by Stockfish 15. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Really immortal ideas in the Scandinavian defense. I think you can use these elements, because I've reached, for instance, these positions many times with the white pieces in the Scandinavian defense. Never really dared to play, never even considered the move h takes g4. Stockfish played it, and Stockfish shows that it's actually working. So in my opinion, a beautiful theoretical novelty, or a beautiful opening trap in this beautiful opening. So okay, see you soon with some more videos. If you want to see more beautiful and epic chess games like this, check out our common chess games played by computers. And as I said, if you want to try to maybe study more about the Scandinavian defense, we have also covered many games in this opening. So here's the link of our Scandinavian defense. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.